Because I can. All you,
Oh
all you
man.
rat bastards out there. You know what it is? I was thinking I haven't really used my jacuzzi much in a year because I've been so busy with everything that we're doing in this movement. And then it hit me that two of my documentaries were pretty much built while I was in my jacuzzi
Oh
because I
really?
could put my laptop out there. Yeah, I built a table that goes over my jacuzzi, and I put my laptop on there, and I get a lot of work done. I mean, if yeah, I don't mind getting my feet turning into prunes and raisins. It's not a big deal.
I mean,
Um,
if you're in there for an hour, you're going to come out looking like a California raisin.
yeah, I think my max was 7.5 hours when I was working on one of my documentaries. My
Wait,
wife
you were
kept
in
coming
a
out.
jacuzzi for 7.5 hours?
7.5 hours, and she kept. Now, what I do is I turn the temperature down, and so I like it about a 104, but I turn it down to 100 if I know I'm going to be here extended time,
Yeah.
right? So it's just comfy. Um, but it's amazing the work I could get done when I'm just hanging here. And I said, you know what? Forget about it. I deserve it. And then I'm watching the Hers commercial, and I'm like, women don't need Hers for PMS. They just suck it up. What's the
Just
problem? Come
suck
on.
it up.
Yeah, that works. That works well with my wife, by the way. It works really well when
I
I say
bet.
that. So,
It's like,
anyways, we're
first
we're
of
trying to
all,
have a
just
good.
settle down. That works really well too.
Yeah, yeah. So I first I say shh, and then then I said now calm yourself and now suck it up, and then the result of that though is I can tell you Neumi works really good on bruises about my hands and face.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, everybody. Oh, I must say here, because this will become a meme, these are jokes. I'm being sarcastic.
Right. He's
Let's
not
not
Andrew
run with
Tate.
this one.
Andrew Tate would be proud.
Right. Yeah. Oh, God. Ay, Dios mío, as she would
Oh
say.
man.
So, part three, we the
Yeah, and I just
people
now
are the
realized I've got
plan.
these studio lights above me that's making it look like I have divine um, illumination over me.
Oh, it does look cool. Well, let's just go with it.
I guess so
I, li-
because I don't know.
I
I don't
like
know
it.
that it's a good idea to try to move this setup at this point. Definitely wouldn't work. Things come unplugged. Everything shuts off.
Mhm.
We'll
Well,
just
the
we'll
reason
just pretend like
I'm in such a good mood today because
there
I'm
you go.
drinking
You're
liberal
drinking
tears.
liberal tears. Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing can make you feel better than that. With the two last SCOTUS decisions, if anybody knows what the hell those really mean, which I think I do, um, wow, the deep
Well,
state is
go
being
go ahead
gutted.
and tell us because I've been so focused, and I knew there was some big SCOTUS rulings, which is good, but honestly, I just haven't had time between all the travel that I've been doing
Hmm,
last couple
hmm.
of days, business I had to handle, trying to make sure that this laptop was ready to rock and roll after a year of not even using it on tour anymore for shows, and several other things. And getting ready for the show too. I haven't honestly studied too much into it, so why don't you enlighten us?
Yeah, Buckshot's asking me to take my shirt off. I knew you were like that, Buck. So,
He wants to
and,
see your pierced nipples.
yes, yes. So he's gonna. Cat, cats don't have nipples. Okay. Anyways, so there's two decisions that are obviously there was not too long ago the Roe versus Wade decision,
Right.
which is huge, and some conservatives are still upset because I think they should have went farther. But what it did is it aligned itself with the Constitution. It sent it back to the states, so it was actually handled appropriately, in my opinion. The other two decisions that just came down recently, Friday and Monday, respectively. I'm going to go Monday first and then step back because I actually think the one that nobody's talking about is a bigger deal. So the Monday one was presidential immunity. So in essence, and I'm summarizing. If you guys want the full breakdown, I did it on Nicholas Vediaman's show today. You can watch it after this. So I I look at it like this. So the presidential immunity, yes, that's good for Trump for sure, and it shows that they can have immunity while in office when they're making decisions based on official business. This is the key that nobody's really talking about. It says official business. Justice Roberts went as far to say does not include unofficial business. So think hot dog pizza party with Barack Obama, right? So I actually think this is a huge decision that will completely backfire on the deep state. Now, to go instantly, they already panicked because Alvin Bragg came out and he already sent a letter to Judge Merchan and said, let's not do the July 11th sentencing of Trump after this decision. So that's and that was today, immediately after, what, one day after. So that's a big deal already. Now, believe it or not, that's great. I don't even think that's the big decision. The big one happened Friday, and it's the Chevron deference decision and why this is so important. And I mean huge, Y-U-U-U-G-E, like Trump would say. The reason why I think this is so important is because what that does is it resets to where we were in 1983. And in 1983, the if you if a non-government entity wanted to create a rule or a law, they would have to go through the Congress, and the Congress would have to approve it, or the judicial system would have to evaluate and see if it's legit. Both of those are off the table. So 40 years later, and I think it came from a commercial fishing unit that was being charged like $900 a day just a license to fish, just because they wanted to. Right? No, we want that money, just like OSHA does. Everybody's fired, right?
Yeah.
All of that's off the table now. None of that can happen. Now, why is that so important? So the deep state is run by non-elected officials and NGOs, corporations, and these three-letter agencies worldwide,
Which is what
i.e.,
makes it unconstitutional.
exactly the World Economic Forum, the UN, the World Health Organization. All of those have been completely emasculated with one decision. This is freaking massive. Those two decisions completely gut the deep state, and they can't do anything. Literally, they can't do anything. Now, we, the people, need to hold them accountable, though, and this is where we tend to fail. So what happens is, you know very well, the deep state's probably going to just try to ignore these decisions like they don't exist,
Just
right? They
like they
really
ignore the
can't.
Constitution anyway.
Exactly, exactly. The good news is this gives us legal recourse, because even a deep state judge doesn't like to go against a SCOTUS decision, right? Because it gets them
Right.
in hot water. So it gives us legal recourse to immediately go after these companies if they try to do this. I'm very excited about this. You know who it's going to affect? I don't think anybody really realizes. It's going to affect the lobbyists, because the lobbyists lobby so hard to get the decisions to be from non-elected officials and three-letter NGOs, right? Now there's no reason for them to do that because they can't make the decisions anyways. This is
Yeah.
epic.
Well, we need a constitutional amendment anyway that makes it to where there's time limitation, specific days, specific times, time window where they can actually meet with lobbyists, and it has to be recorded publicly. Their meetings have to be publicly recorded, just like congressional meetings are on C-SPAN. They can't do anything in secret, because there's only one thing that happens in governments in secret, and it's so they can break the law, make backdoor deals, and line their own pockets.
You know, I didn't even think of that. I just wanted to gut the lobbyist altogether and just say we can't have them. But that's really not a bad
Well, the
idea
only
because
reason I say I don't think we should is because think about it. We do. I don't think you can, because number one, it's a protected right in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, for the First Amendment gives people the right to assemble peaceably and petition the representatives. So essentially, lobbyists are actually following what's in the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment when they're doing that. The problem
except for the
is,
financial kickback part.
right, the problem is all the secret stuff that goes on behind closed doors, the secret
Mhm.
handshake stuff. The
It's not. I'm glad you brought this up because I get really irritated with the knee-jerk reaction in the patriot community, because the reality is there's a lot of good out there, right? The challenge is the bad guys find a way to use it for not good, for evil,
Right.
right? That doesn't mean we get rid of it. So should we get rid of phones now because they're using phones for evil? Let's just get rid of the internet altogether, right?
Right.
They use wood for evil, so let's get rid of the trees. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Well, Bill Gates
we
wants to
have
cut
to,
down all the trees and bury them anyway because it's going to save the planet.
yeah. It's, she I could have sworn that the carbon dioxide is food for the trees and they reproduce oxygen that would get rid of fake global warming. You know what's fun is I'm literally studying all this a lot right now because I'm working on a film called The Real Climate Crisis. So this is these are fun topics for me right now. And by the way, I have a love-hate relationship with David Attenborough because of what I'm just the stuff that I'm watching. It's really interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. So, well,
By the
yeah,
way,
I'm excited
my
about the
my
stuff that. What?
I was gonna expose my wife, but if she knows exactly where I was going with that, so I think I'll just keep my mouth shut right
That's not a good thing to say when you're in the hot tub. People might get the wrong idea.
now. Not that type of expose. Yeah.
Um,
Liberal tyranny.
liberal tears. So yeah, yeah. Obviously, it's good stuff that's happening with the Supreme Court. Isn't there some new stuff brewing with the Brunson case? Again, another new Brunson case as well. I haven't even had time to look into that. I just,
There is. There is. I was just hanging out with Lloyd Brunson 2 days ago, actually.
were you? Okay,
Um,
so is there
yeah,
anything you can tell us or want to share about it?
actually it's it's pretty complicated, but he's taken a whole nother angle and he's getting some traction now. What I
Yeah,
like about what Loy and everybody did is, well, I'd say the Brunson brothers, but he seems to be the leader on it right now, is they they were willing to put these cases forward and fail in order to learn, hone their skills, and go back in and take it from another angle. And
yeah.
I think they're probably going to get some traction on this next one. In fact, he physically gave me the full case that they submitted. I haven't had a chance to read it, so I can't talk smart about that, but I will be reading it in the next few days, probably over the holiday.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be good stuff coming out from the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, here's what I'm concerned with, and this is really why we've been doing this series the whole time, Lewis. I know you know this. My biggest concern is I feel like again there's still, I mean, there's been a lot of waking up, but there's still too much. Let's wait and see what somebody else does going on in
Mhm.
the patriot community, in the truther community. And what I'm
Yep.
worried about is we're right around the corner from what most likely, unless the unthinkable happens, what most likely will be Trump coming back into office officially again for another term, and the Supreme Court making all these rulings, and it's going to look like, yay, we're winning. We don't have to do anything. I'm
Yeah.
not even kidding a little bit when I say I think it would almost be better for this country to get kicked in the teeth again. And I almost feel like, unfortunately, that's what it's actually going to take for enough people, because it doesn't take everybody. And we know there's, because people get mad at me like, well, what do you want me to do, Ethan? I can't do this. I'm on disability or I'm 80 years old. Like, we're not talking to you. We're talking to the
Well,
people who can do
but
something.
you know what? Those people that say that, they still can do this. They can pray, they can manifest, they can talk to somebody, and they could forward a post. So you could still do something and feel like you're active in this move. And I'm starting to go with movement. I used to avoid the movement, but it really is. It
Yeah.
really is a movement. If we move.
If you move, yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
And
movement if you
and
don't move.
and
Movement
and
requires
that's
action. And I want to get in today with some of the, and we may not get through all of them because, again, I know it's a holiday. Everybody wants to hang out with their friends and family. That's one of the reasons I'm even traveling right now. I had some business to tend to, but I'm going to spend some time with the family. I haven't seen most of my core family for almost a year now. Um, well, unless you count Christmas. So I guess it's been 6 months. But I mean, besides just Christmas. That was it. So, um, so we may not. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time today. We may not get into everything, but like we said before, we're going to make this a mini series anyway. But I do want to at least get into some of these principles uh, that we started to prime the pump with for what our founding fathers actually said. That I think so many people aren't even aware of. I mean, it just a rudimentary digging through the writings,
Mhm.
the extra constitutional writings that went on. There's literally thousands of pages written by our founding fathers leading up to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution that we have. And there's a lot of people that hate the Constitution because they were told to hate it by patriot mythology people. Let me put it this way: I don't love it, but if you fully understand it and you dig into it, it's actually really powerful. And if we hold these people's feet to the fire and make them follow it, I don't think we're going to have a lot of problems, honestly. And I think that's why when this nation started out, everything was mostly pretty fine. People paid almost no taxes, if any at all. It just depended on the situation. They weren't being harassed and stalked daily by a standing, uniformed, armed army in the streets that they call police officers. Now, I get that we need law enforcement. That's not what I'm saying, but it's gone from the point of, okay, we used to have a sheriff and honest law enforcement that was constitutional and they would leave people alone unless there was legitimate crime, to now we go to, did you see that video of the dude literally got accosted and arrested by a police officer in California for eating a sandwich while he was waiting on the
Mhm.
train. Meanwhile, you can loot and rob a store up to what is it, $800 or $900 worth of stuff, and they won't even bat an eye.
Yeah. 950, and you could do it right there. The stores are right there at the same place that he got accosted. Now that was from 2019, but
Oh, was it older?
it's
Okay,
still.
I just now saw it.
No, it's 'cause it's going viral again. But it was from 2019, but it is absolutely real. He got arrested for eating a sandwich. And this is one of the cases that it looked like racial profiling to me because there was a bunch of other people that were eating sandwiches and they walked right past them to get this guy. Who knows what it is? Don't know. All I know is absolutely ridiculous. Arrested him for that. He wasn't resisting and they claimed he was resisting.
Well, and
It's
see,
just
that's what
crazy.
this is the point I'm making. Is now our law enforcement has literally become the standing army that our founders warned us against. and and there's so many people, so many patriots especially, that are just, they're so brainwashed into the cult like think of the Republican mentality. They haven't even taken the time to read anything our founding fathers said. They haven't even considered the principles about what's said about this. Our founding fathers, armed officers on the streets patrolling and harassing people. And so we've gone from, okay, they fixed that. And then we did have legitimate law enforcement who would leave everyone the hell alone. They weren't rolling around stalking and preying on people all the time. To now where you have sandwiches, you have situations like this where you get arrested for eating a sandwich. You know,
And it's real. It's real too. It's not. It wasn't. It's not fake. This stuff is actually happening because we're our police force are brown shirts
yeah.
in is really what they are now. And if anybody doesn't understand that under
Yeah.
Nazi control
Well,
in
and that's
Germany,
why
the
I'm not, a
brown
lot of
shirts was
people get up in
enforced.
arms, but they get confused. It's like the people, when mainstream Christians meet me for the first time or hear me talk about the Bible for the first time, it's like it short circuits everything because they never considered there could be anything in the realm of the Bible that supports Christ, that supports the Bible, but yet condemns religion for all the heinous undercover evil that's gone unnoticed for so long because we've just gotten used to it or it wasn't even shown to us. It's the same thing with the Constitution, with our laws, with our law enforcement, with our government, with our Constitution. And so at the end of the day, there actually really isn't that much wrong with the Constitution. There are things that I would add to it or tweak a little bit. But as we dig through this, and we'll probably on the next one be able to get into it more, because again, we're going to make this one a little bit shorter today. And again, everybody's on holiday and we want to get moving. But so I don't want to get too deep into one topic and then have to cut it off. But I kind of want to prime the pump from you showing everybody your wet. Is this a wet T-shirt contest, Lewis?
It really is. Looking good too. I've been working out. I don't mind looking at myself lately.
so, so we primed the pump in the last two with this and showing all the. This is a perfect example. I've my whole entire ministry is built almost really on just showing people that the Bible says completely different things than what religion says that it says, right?
Hmm.
And so now I've shifted gears a little bit again after it's been, this is the fourth year. I got the third volume of the Jesus Q Connection being released this summer. After I wrote that and released it the day before the 2020 election, there was a good amount of people that got the book and read it, but not a lot. And I think a lot of people probably picked it up and read it maybe about halfway through and then put it down. Like I do that with books all the time. Doesn't matter how good the book is. We just get busy and whatever. But if you would read the book all the way through, you would see that what I'm telling you on this show series is exactly what I was hinting at and pointing out in the book, The Jesus Q Connection, is that Q did not say what they said that they said. Just like the Bible doesn't say what they said that it said. And also, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence and all the writings of our founding fathers did not say what people say that they say. And there's just too much of that going on. We've gone through, with the Bible, it's been thousands of years. With our founding documents, it's been hundreds of years, and with Q, it's been less than 10 years. What's it been? 7 years now, and it's like obviously it doesn't even take. I was thinking at first, it's like, okay, well maybe it takes a couple hundred years for stuff to get really skewed. I watched what happened with Q. It took like a matter of months before people were just spewing crazy stuff off of what Q was saying. And I get at the beginning it was a little harder because some of it did sound like super, super big shock value. But that was what I want people to understand with what Q did when they opened up with that and just their first few drops. Hillary Clinton's arrested and all of that stuff, John Podesta, right? And this is all the stuff that people are now today still coming back with saying, CQ is fake. That stuff never happened. You're reading it out of context. You're not understanding it. You have to look at it big picture. Number one, they're spell casting. Number two, we don't know. Maybe they actually were arrested, right? And number three, whether they were or weren't, it was going to take something that shocking to break the spell over humanity and wake people up. So what I'm saying is, I don't care if it actually was just a bullshit line just to catch people's attention and reel them into this Q process, because guess what? It worked. It was one of the best psyops in history to wake people up. Something like 500 million people woke up worldwide just within the first couple of years of Q, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, I don't see a problem with this. Do you see a problem with this?
No, well, I don't like the manipulation at all, right? I'll be straight with
No,
that,
I
and
don't
that's
either.
why
But I wouldn't call it manipulation. I just call it, getting somebody's attention, throwing a bucket of water on somebody.
right, right, right. So because the reality, and I say this is my challenge with Flynn is it anytime you hear Flynn, you have to take into context what he used to do. He was the master of psyops, right?
Right.
And so he's a psyop wrapped in a psyop. It's just that's the conundrum with dealing with him and a lot of this stuff. Now, I will say, which I think is very important, President Trump has given several nods to Q. The biggest one that he ever did was yesterday, I believe, or the day before yesterday, and actually posted it, where he retruthed where we go one, we go all, Q right there. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Yep. So that to me, that's all you have to know it's real. Now, are they going to psyop the deep state at the same time in Q? Of course they are, 100%.
Well, that was the other
But
part of it. It's a psyop on the other side too, because Q said several times they are also watching.
exactly. So they're going to have to twist their heads around. The biggest thing that I believe happened wrongly, and I believe a lot of it was intention, and a lot of it was just so people can build their platforms, is manipulating the line trust the plan, right? Like it's some popcorn eating movie when you're wearing a frog mask, right? That's not
Right.
what this was. That's not what this was about. You proved it here. I've known it for years. Trust plan's all about the people. Trump said We did our work. Now we're handing it back to we the people.
Yeah.
Why on earth would he said that if he didn't want you to take some action?
Yeah.
That's the pro. That
Well,
that's
and
the
it's the
thing.
same problem with religion where they just pick one scripture out of the Bible, one short scripture, and they just repeat it, parrot it over and over and over and over. So then it creates a religious dogma that's not even true. It's not even real because they took it out of context out of the scripture. Just like clearly, once we dug into all those, how many? I mean, we went through probably 100 Q drops. In every single one of them, it was clear what the context was and what they meant when they said trust the plan. If you read everything else around it, you can't isolate single sentences out of any written work and pretend like you know what it means.
Yep, absolutely. But that's the game, isn't it? And it's also okay. Let's be real. People get upset with me. Americans are inherently lazy.
Yes.
We've been bred to be lazy. So I'm not faulting you. I understand this is part of the grand manipulation. Study for a test, just figure out the answer, put the answer on paper, but don't internalize it. And whatever you do, don't take take action on anything whatsoever. Just repeat like a parrot. So we've been conditioned since preschool all the way through college to be exactly like that. Some people realize that and they're like, well, that's not me, right? I would rather be independent. That's why your D and your F students generally are your ones that run your middle of the road businesses because they're like, okay, I'm not going to put up with this crap anymore. So the conditioning's there, the brainwashing, the propaganda is there, even MK Ultra, it's all there. But when do we take accountability as we the people, the ones that are awake, which everybody on this channel should be, the ones that are awake to say, okay, I'm going to set aside that laziness and understand the picture is a lot bigger than my personal situation. It's it has to do with the kids, their kids, their kids, their kids for multiple generations to come is really what we're truly fighting for. And Ethan, is that not biblical in itself?
Yeah, 100%. Um, I mean, I hate to break it to everybody, but it's called self governance for a reason. And again, it's just like I tell people when I'm doing life coaching or health coaching, because a lot of health issues too are they're psychosomatic, and it stems from trauma and abuse and things going on in society and their family when they were kids and whatever. You know, your trauma may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal from it, right? And all
Mhm.
this stuff that's been going on in our government and in our nation, listen, it's not your fault. It's not my fault, other than if you go back generation after generation after generation, you follow this back probably really to the early 1900s is where it started to get really, really slimy. And Woodrow Wilson signed in the Federal Reserve Act. We ended up with the IRS and all this stuff. And then, of course, it wasn't but a couple decades later that we ended up with the New Deal with FDR and the Ponzi scheme, Social Security, and they confiscated all the gold. And it was just a slow, slippery slide. And nobody along the way stood up and said no. And that's how we got here. So a lot of this stuff happened before we were born. It wasn't our fault, but it's still our responsibility to fix it. And we live in a republic. If you want to keep it, we live in a republic where we have a responsibility to self-govern, to where we have to hold our elected representatives accountable. And if they're not truly elected, then we got to fix that too. We've got to go find whoever's causing the problems. And I'm sorry, but we got to whoop some ass. You know, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean literally snatch them up by the neck and beat their face in. But metaphorically speaking, we have to be willing to just go in and kick some ass.
Well, in fact, your original point that you were making is it just because we are a victim doesn't mean we can't move forward. So you can be accountable and make choices. And I'm going to use the worst case scenario. Because you were molested doesn't mean you need to become a molestor. In fact, many that are molested actually will go out and they become pedo hunters. And
Yes.
I mean that on on the computer, so on and so forth, and they go after these people. So it's just because you have a victim situation doesn't mean you have to live as a victim. And that's where people, so yes, have we been beaten down? Absolutely. Have we been poisoned? We have, right? Make choices to make sure your life is better. Yes, but you know what? I think we ultimately have a responsibility, and it's huge, to be the most healthy that we can possibly be so we can make a difference, because ultimately this is just my theory. I believe there is an eternity. That's my belief system. I believe in mathematics, so let's quantify eternity as 1 million years. And to make it easy, let's say we can live up to 100 years. So 100 years out of 1 million is a very small blip in that timeline. So should we not do the most we can in this 100 years on Earth to be the best we can and make other lives better? Of course we should. And that is how we earn our stripes, our wings for eternity, in my opinion.
Yep. Well, and again, at the end of the day, what you allow will continue. And the conversations we've had on several shows, like the series, mini series we did on the difference between white hats and black hats, and the fact that there really aren't either. They're all just varying shades of gray hats.
Mhm.
Because when the people don't stand up and self govern, when they don't realize the power rests with them, something's going to sneak in and take over, and that's exactly what's happened. It had the good news is it's up to you. The bad news is it's up to you. No one's coming to save the day. And if you really consider Trump a white hat,
Mhm.
if you think the military is on our side, and God help us if they're not, I believe they are, because they're people just like you and me. You have children that were in the military. I come from a military family myself, but it doesn't matter what you think of, a particular president or the military. If they are actually good people, they're going to follow the law and the constitutional restraints that are there. And I'm sorry, but this half the stuff or more that you hear, and what I always call patriot mythology, of people saying that Trump and the military is doing or has done or is going to do, it's just not even there, because the Constitution explicitly, plainly, and in your face says that any thing that's not specifically delegated to the federal government in the Constitution, if it doesn't say it in black and white letters, clearly printed out, so specific that there's no room for interpretational error, if it doesn't say that, then that power is delegated then to the people. That's Constitution 101.
Right.
And so my
So
biggest concern is that, Trump gets back in there another 4 years. The Supreme Court makes a lot of good rulings. Things look like it's starting to tilt back in our favor, and everybody goes back to sleep. And then what happens after Trump? Trump's only going to get another 4 years max. Then
so
what?
my concern is similar. My concern is that the military does go in and take care of business, and they become our savior,
Yeah,
and then we have a major vacuum that has to be filled. Now, even if good people with good intentions become fill that vacuum, the reality is, if we the people don't step up and claim our sovereignty privately and publicly and do something about it, redressing of grievances is huge, by the way. If we do not do something about it, those so-called good guys that take control become controllers,
right.
and it's
Which you
just
don't want.
it's automatically they're going to take more and more and more and more because they have
Yep.
that power. Trump said he gave it back to us. So why are we not going to claim it? We have to claim it. Now, is the military working in the background? Yeah, I believe they are. Should they come and completely save the day? No, because we'll be right back here in 20 to 30 years. We have to be accountable for this, working with them symbiotically, not
Yeah.
waiting for them.
They're
And the
waiting.
way
They're
we do
waiting on
that,
us. How many times did we show
I,
the drops that literally said, if the people go in and demand these people be removed, the generals will be forced? This is an actual Q drop. This is the big one that I sent out. And we went over. The generals will be forced to go with the will of the people, because every single enlisted and the lower ranking officers, they are all just as much one of we the people as you and I are, or anybody watching this. And here's the other scary thing to consider. if we sit around and think, okay, well, that's good. Let's just say that it went the way of all the patriot mythology people and the ones I'm calling Q-tards that said stuff that Q never said and was leading people down Pied Piper paths. Let's just say it went that way and it was like, oh yay, rah rah. Here's the problem: you just set a precedent now that the military can come in and do whatever they want. Now we live in a military dictatorship, and so when Trump's term is over and they find a way, because they'll find a way. They find a way to cheat it and get back in there. Guess what happens? The guillotine drops and it's over with. And that's why I say it would almost be better at this point to just sustain where we're at, which it would suck. It would suck so bad. But I almost feel like it would really get Americans, more Americans on board with this and just smack them in the face. I mean, I'm telling you, the best lessons I ever learned in life was getting my teeth kicked in. I can remember at one point in my life, failing in my first business, and I was 1,000 miles away from home. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. This isn't some country song. 1,000 miles away from home, sitting by the side of the road. Probably wasn't even going to make
Thousand
it to
miles away from home, sitting by the
wasn't even going
side
to
of
make
the
it to the next
road.
place because I didn't have enough money to buy enough gas to get there. And I was trying to figure it out. I was just completely like I was distraught. I got my teeth kicked in. But you know what? It made me a better businessman. It made me more responsible. It made me take more due diligence in my life. It made me take more action. It made me be more responsive to potential issues. And instead of being so lackadaisical and just letting whatever happen. And so, unfortunately, it's set up that way for a reason. God made it that way for a reason, so that when you start getting too lazy, that you're not going to get the kid that the mom's like, now honey, clean up your room, and she says that 10 times. It's not going to change. At some point you got
Mhm.
to start cracking the whip, you know and there has to be some real repercussions for not doing what you're supposed to do.
Well, to me, by far the biggest rewards I personally have ever had in my life is me going through being uncomfortable. And uncomfortable actually is how you grow and succeed. My favorite word in the English language by far, nothing close to it, is the word triumph. And triumph, in my opinion, is when you work so hard towards a certain goal, crawl through glass, blood, sweat, tears, and then you succeed, right? The beautiful thing about it is you never regress emotionally. You just kind of leveled up, and then you
Right.
level up again, leveled up again. I believe right now we as a country and the world are in the leveling up process. The challenge is we've been conditioned to be selfish, very, very selfish. So this is why you hear Juan O'Savin say it may be. I think there's one of two things that could help this happen before this election, so we don't have to worry about what happens at that election for the moment. I believe that um, July is going to be so bad for the deep state. They'll more than likely start putting out their Antifa, BLM. They're bad actors causing problems, and that's going to be a wake up call for people. The other thing is, I think it's very likely, reading the tea leaves of the real estate, the stock market, insurance companies. Oh my Lord, if you look at the tea leaves on insurance companies right now,
Yeah.
that this will all create, and of course, the de dollarization of America. I believe all of those together will massively come together in the pinnacle of a massive financial crash. That in regards and in connection, I should say, with Antifa movement, or the deep state, that's going to probably be our big wake up call. Now the question is, will we act? Here's the good news. In times of war, World War II would be a great example of that, right? Uh, during the You had the roaring 20s, and then you had the 30s of the depression, right? And they're just slowly starting to snap out of that in the 40s, and the way, which is a completely manufactured war. People should study that on their own. But what happened is it it motivated the people in the United States to a level that was never seen before at that time, where they were galvanized for a certain outcome. In fact, most women, even with children, went to work, and the women are the single, if you believe the war is not, some of the history wasn't fake, let's just assume it was real. That was the single biggest reason why the US won the war, is because of the women here on how they produce products. So that was a scare of it. And that galvanized everybody. Now, it could have been a false flag in Pearl Harbor, which I know that was, could have galvanized everybody for the wrong reasons. But the reality is that galvanized us as never before. So I believe a financial crash, unfortunately, cities burning, something like that, will galvanize us. And I have faith that we will take it to the next level. We'll see, though. The
Yeah.
Unity Tour, I hope, is going to be a big part of educating people on what they can do, because we're actually going to have a game plan, a roadmap laid out that we can physically hand to people and say, hey,
Yeah.
just do this.
Well, and by the way, too, just so you know, I haven't talked much with you about this because I wanted to see where it would go. And unfortunately, this is what I mean when I say it's up to we, the people. I can't force anyone around me. You can't force anyone around you to do anything. But divine appointments can happen. And over the course of the
Mhm.
last year or so, I've had some divinely appointed meetings, I would like to say, with some constitutional sheriffs in Tennessee. And when I tell you constitutional sheriffs, I'm not even kidding you. I'm talking about sheriffs that are literally ready. I'm not going to say counties or names or anything for obvious reasons, but they are literally ready to go 1776 this thing. They are that much on our side. And
Let
so
me guess, what are they waiting for? Or who?
there, exactly. And that's my point. And this is one of the reasons why I brought this series to you. I want to talk about it because of recent conversations in these meetings that I've been having with them. Because it does have to be planned out. Unfortunately, it has to be strategic. It has to be planned out. The momentum has to be there. We have to have the numbers. But because people ask me, because I hear this all the time, and every time I bring this stuff up, people are like, "Well, what are you doing, Ethan?" First of all, you
Oh, my
don't know what
Lord.
I'm doing. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. You should be too. I don't even sleep 8 hours a night. Thank God I've got Neumi. I don't need to sleep 8 hours a night. But I don't. Like, I'm just, you can ask anybody in my family and my friends or people close to me that know me. They're like, Ethan's just, I don't know how to stop. And it's probably a problem. But for right now, it's good. If the world was normal, that would be a problem. But people need to get like that. I hate to say it, and I'm not saying that to say I'm better than anybody. I'm not. I'm just telling you this is what it takes. You have to be willing to do things. This is why I say all the time: go in your prayer closet. That's what the Bible says. Do go in your prayer closet. Listen, get the download about your assignment. We all have different assignments, and the armies are being built. And eventually, there will come a time when we have enough numbers, we'll pull the trigger on it, and we're all coming together slowly. It's fractalizing. It's growing. Like, you ever watch under a microscope a video of a drop of water freezing, and you start to
Mm.
see all of the
Mhm.
crystals start to form and everything. That's what's happening right now in America. But we can't stop. Now's not the time to let it go like, oh, we got some Supreme Court traction. Trump's about to get back in. It's just going to fall back apart again. We have to keep moving, keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because it is up to us. And these sheriffs that will work with us, they're not going to go in there by themselves. I mean, what are you going to do? 100 sheriffs going to go by themselves to D.C.? They'll end up in gulags just like these J6 dudes did too, because the cabal is ruthless, and they know that.
It it's there's and also it's tough. So I was traveling to an event a few months ago, and I had my Remember Your Oath shirt on, right? And it says, we hold and support sheriffs accountable through the Constitution. Um, and it was funny because I was getting just a little fountain drink. We just made a stop in Morongo on the way into another state, and you know how you could feel somebody looking at you, right? I felt
Yeah.
them looking at me. So what I did intentionally is I turned my back so they could really read my shirt. They're about 6 feet away from me, right? And then knowing that they're reading it, I whipped around really fast to catch them, right? And I caught them reading it, and I go, so you're reading the back of my shirt? They're like, yeah, what's that all about, right? I go,
Yeah.
glad you asked. And then I started to tell them. And then I got to a point where one was really engaged with me, and the other one you can tell he was just an asshole. But it is what it is. But the one was really engaged with me, and I go, here's the deal. So I laid out all the challenges that were happening. He agreed. He's like, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. And I said, so what do you do about it? He goes, what do you mean? I go, so if you believe your bosses are acting unconstitutionally, what do you do? He goes, well, we can't do nothing because we'll lose our pension, we'll lose this, and I'll lose this. And I asked him, I said, so when does your legacy that you leave for your children be more important than the money that you leave for your kids? Wouldn't you like to be talked about for a century from now and say, you know what, so and so did this, this, and this to try to say it? Because the reality, and I didn't go here with this guy, but the reality is he won't have that pension when we're driven into communism. That pension's
Yeah.
going to be completely gone. It won't matter. It will be inconsequential.
He'll
So
have nothing to
finally,
leave his kids either. The state's going to
he,
take it
he'll
all.
have he'll have zero, and he might not even have his kids because the state could take his kids too. So here's the deal: is when it comes down to it, he said, if I can get 9 to 10 people or 9 to 10 cops, because I would stand up against the system. So this is an actual cop saying that. So why am I saying this? When we get something like Remember Your Oath done, and we're going to be holding the sheriffs accountable and support them, when they see a clicker of 1 million people just saying, I agree with this, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, that has a lot of impact with these guys. Because then myself, Ethan, and some other leaders, anybody that wants to, we'll start calling the sheriffs. There's only 3,100 of them. We'll start calling them and say, here's the deal.
Yeah.
We have 1 million people that would support you if you did the things constitutionally, blah, 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 blah. Are you willing to step up? Go to the next one. If we get 30 people, we each make 100 phone calls. Imagine the impact of that. So this is how we, the people, can get active. And I just don't think all the systems are there for people, so they sit by and wait. And that's why I see in the meantime,
Yeah.
go to your school board and make a difference. Do
Well, that's
something
what
in
I
your
keep
local
telling people
community.
too. It's like, you know, don't you guys? Most of you guys are already aware of this. The best thing you can do at this point is share these shows, share the hell out of it, because this is a wake up call for all the other people that aren't with us yet. We still need the numbers. So you hear us come on here and say this, and you're like, well, we've heard you say it a million times. Yeah, because we don't have the millions of people that we need yet. So we have to keep saying it. There's an order to this process. There has to be leaders speaking and rallying troops and organizing, but we can't pull the trigger to do anything big until we have all the strategy and the organization and all the people fully committed. But in the
Hmm.
meantime, Lewis always says the micro fixes the macro anyway. So start working on the small stuff. And I know we're going to wrap it up here soon. So before we go, I want to prime the pump for the next one. And the next one may be the last one we do in this series. I don't know, maybe one more maximum, because there are a lot of things I want to share about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, all of the Federalist and Anti-Federalist. We're not going to read them all. I don't want to say all of them. I mean, I want to go through all the stuff, is what I'm saying, and the very important key things in those. So I want to pull up here just something to prime the pump, and it's not appearing up here on my screen as well as it normally does when I'm in the studio, because I'm on a little laptop with a screen about a third of the size. But this is a letter, or not. I'm sorry, not a letter. This was an official address and answer to the whole entire Congress that they had meeting together to ratify the Constitution, written by James Madison on June 8th, 1789. Okay, and this is a great. It doesn't even contain all of it, so this is just one little excerpt of things. But I want you to take a look at one thing I highlighted real quick right in here, and think about it. And as we close on this, it'll start to paint the picture for you of really what I'm talking about and really what I'm saying, that not only did our founding fathers have to do, they were in the same exact situation we're in now. In fact, in a lot of ways, it might have been easier on them um, than it is on us, other than they don't have the internet and the communication. That part makes it easier for us. but we have more numbers now because there's still not that many bad guys. It's just they've amassed all the wealth and all the power and the control because everybody's given it over to them. But look at what James Madison said here in regard to figuring out amendments to the Constitution. It's when they were debating, Bill of Rights stuff. He said, "It has been said by way of objection to a Bill of Rights." There, believe it or not, there were actually people objecting to a Bill of Rights before they drafted it, right? And this is what he's saying. "By many respectable gentlemen out of doors, and I find opposition on the same principles likely to be made by gentlemen on this floor, that they are unnecessary articles of a republican government." See, these people were saying, we don't need these Bill of Rights. It's unnecessary. Look, read the Constitution. I can't imagine a single scenario or situation where anything could go sour here. I mean, everybody already knows the deal. Everyone thinks the way we do. This is the problem. Things change over time. Thank God they made the Bill of Rights, right? So he continues. He said, okay, so a lot of these people are objecting to it, saying it's unnecessary in a republican form of government because these things are unthinkable, right? And then he says, upon the presumption that the people have those rights in their own hands. See, look, this is why there were people actually, we wouldn't think this now. We're like, that's crazy. We need our Bill of Rights. But back then, everyone already had the presumption that all of these rights were already in the hands of the people, and that at any given time, if anything started to go sideways, the people would just stand up and put a stop to it. That was the argument against the Bill of Rights. You see how well that aged. So James Madison is brilliant in pointing this out. And there were many others. But, and he said, that's what he said here, the rights are in the hands of the people, and this is the proper place for them to rest. So this was always the assumption amongst all the founding fathers, even the ones who were in disagreement about what should be put into the Constitution. In this case, amendments to the Constitution to create the Bill of Rights. Now he says, it would be a sufficient answer to say that this objection lies against such provisions under the state governments as well as under the general government, the federal government. And that was the argument. It's like, well, the state governments, they have their own constitution, and their preambles and their constitutions have their Declaration of Rights in them. So why do we need this? And then so he says, and there I believe but few gentlemen who are inclined to push their theory so far as to say that a Declaration of Rights in those cases is either ineffectual or improper. It has been said that in the federal government they are unnecessary because the powers are enumerated. That means they're listed specifically, right? Again, this goes back to the fact that Trump and the military can't do half the stuff that people are saying because it's not enumerated in the Constitution. And it follows that all are not granted by the Constitution are retained. That the Constitution is a bill of powers, the great residuum being the rights of the people, and therefore a Bill of Rights cannot be so necessary as if the residuum was thrown in the hands of the government. See, he's explaining what their argument against the Bill of Rights is. And I'm going to finish out this paragraph. It's like 4 more sentences, just so you can get a handle fully on what he's saying. This is important leading into this next series or next show in the series. I admit that these arguments are not entirely without foundation, but they are not conclusive to the extent which has been supposed. It is true the powers of the general government are circumscribed. They are directed to particular objects, but even if government keeps within those limits, you see what he said? Even if the government keeps within those limits, it has certain discretionary powers with respect to the means, which may admit of abuse to a certain extent in the same manner as the powers of the state governments under their constitutions may to an indefinite extent, because in the Constitution of the United States there is a clause granting to Congress the power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution all the powers vested in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. And again, this is where we run into the problem of the 3-letter agencies, right? Okay. And had we not had the Bill of Rights, those 3-letter agencies actually would be constitutional at this point. They're not, mostly, in my opinion, because of the Bill of Rights. And he goes on to say, this enables them to fulfill every purpose for which the government was established. Now, may not laws be considered necessary and proper by Congress, for it is them who are to judge of the necessity and propriety to accomplish those special purposes which they may have in contemplation, which laws in themselves are necessary or proper, as well as improper laws could be enacted by the state legislatures. And they have been, right? For fulfilling the more extended objects of those governments, I will state an instance which I think in point and proves that this might be the case. The general government has a right to pass all laws which shall be necessary to collect its revenue. Here's where we're running the problem, right? The means for enforcing the collection are within the direction of the legislature. May not general warrants be considered necessary for this purpose, as well as for some purposes which it was supposed at the framing of their constitution the state governments had in view? If there was reason for restraining the state governments from exercising this power, there is like reason for restraining the federal government. And that was his argument. We're restraining the state governments from just handing them a blank check and having the foxes watch the hen house. So this is why we need the Bill of Rights. This is why we need to amend this Constitution. And again, we've just fallen. How many years has it been now? A little more than a couple hundred years. And it didn't take that long. And you can see James Madison's point. And that's even after creating the Bill of Rights and the amendments. And we still have the problem. And again, go back to his original point. The power is inherent in the people. And that was always the argument. Well, we don't need this stuff because the power is inherent in the people. Look at how that's shifted. Now people don't want to do anything. They don't want to self-govern. So that's why we're in an even worse situation.
So I just want to make a couple points. So the for people that may not know, and this is not me being overeducated. It's just some people don't understand that the Bill of Rights is actually the first 10 amendments. And the reason why those amendments are so important is because even though I totally believe that the state should make this decision, they also need to be held accountable and need a framework. Now, Trump always says and Q legally, lawfully, legally, lawfully. Why is that? Because can you imagine if we got our wish and this was over 4 years ago and the military just jumped in and took care of business, people would backlash because they're like, okay, we're under totalitarian control here.
Yep.
What's going on? And we would not want that to happen again under another government. We need to be able to reform the government. And the way we do that is through we the people. So what's very, very important, I think probably the most important thing, I want everybody to imagine. Take a deep breath, close your eyes and imagine. Where would we be today if we did not have the Second Amendment? That is the biggest weapon, pun intended, that we have against the deep state. This is
Or the
why,
first.
yes, well, of course, but my point is that they coalesce together actually.
Yeah.
But the point is, without the Second Amendment, we would be Canada, only worse. We would be Australia, only worse without the Second Amendment. That's how important this is because the deep state has not figured out what these guys did over 250 years ago. They have not figured out how to circumvent. It's been hugely important that we have that. And by the way, we haven't used them as of yet.
Right. Oh, by the way, on the next one, I'm going to talk about that issue of the debate on the 1871 incorporation of DC thing. I want to clarify some things. It's actually in the third volume of the Jesus Q Connection that I'm about to release, but I'm going to give people a sneak peek of it and talk about it because it's relevant for this. We need to talk about it.
Cool.
But we're actually in a better position than what people think, and that's why I'm saying it would literally end in one day if enough of us just stood up. And regardless of what they've done, incorporate this, incorporate that, doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it only stands if we allow it to stand. What you allow will continue because all the power is inherent in the people. See, that you had before the Bill of Rights, even right there, James Madison, our fourth president, saying, "Look, guys, we already know. We get it. I see your argument that we all know, and that's the general consensus amongst the entire population that the power is inherent in the people, and that if there's any funny business everybody would just stand up and put a stop to it right away. So why is it necessary? Well, now you see why, but it still remains true. It doesn't matter what they write down on a piece of paper. I'm sorry, but just because a group of 500 assholes get together in a room and with suits and ties and write stuff down on a piece of paper and say, okay, well, this is going to apply to you, doesn't mean it applies to you. It only applies to you if you allow it. And so that's what we've got to get back to. This is an education problem more than anything. And
Hmm.
again, that's why I, as big of a Second Amendment guy as I am, I mean, look at my hat. That's what I'm wearing, right? Um, I still think the First Amendment's even more important because ultimately, I mean, you need them both. They go. It's like you need a right hand and a left hand. It's like a right hand left hand thing. But if imagine right now if we didn't, just to go along with what you said, imagine also if we didn't have freedom of speech, if we didn't have the internet, if we couldn't have you know podcasts, if we didn't have alternative media like this, there's no way we would be able to grow this movement and actually take it back at this point. So our founders did something, almost 250 years ago that is just beyond comprehension how well thought out it was. It wasn't perfect, doesn't need to be perfect. It got us this far. But if we don't stand up now, and maybe we do need to make some more amendments to the Constitution, maybe we do need to add to the Bill of Rights a little bit. I think we do. We need to tighten the reins even more on the federal government. But if we don't do it now, and it's up to us to do it, they're not going to. Have you ever seen a criminal put handcuffs on himself and lock himself in a jail cell and throw the key across the hall?
Not yet.
It's not going to happen. We have to be the ones to do it, and so that's where we're at. But yeah, any
You know, Ethan, I'm noticing right now our audience is building right now. So if you want to, if you have the time, we can take 15, 20 minutes and take some questions from chat
yeah, that's
if you're
fine. I
open
can
to
go a
it.
little bit longer, but probably 15
Guys,
minutes max, I would say.
okay, cool. Put your questions in capitals in the chat, by the way, or we will not see them. So just if you have a question on anything, right? Even what color underwear Ethan's wearing, that would be
It's
fine.
always black.
This
The answer is always black. Everything I wear is black.
everything is just
I'm
like
not
your
even
heart.
kidding either. If you want to know, my underwear is
No,
black.
I really don't, but thank you. Um, but if you guys have any questions for us whatsoever, just to have fun, just please put them all in caps, and we'll grab them really, really quick. So Ethan, I know that you've been annoyed with the lack of progress from We the People, but from from your discernment, what do you see as the outlook? Do you think that the people are gonna step up and 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 assist in this process, or do you think we're just gonna lay down, in your
I think
opinion?
they will. The way I see it going is it's just going to continue to grow the way it has, really slow. But we're also going to have some attrition and fall off because there's a lot of people that are getting disconcerted with what's going on. They're checking out, and that's what
Mhm.
pisses me off more than anything because we had this momentum. I mean, look at where we were 2 years ago, Lewis, on the True Tour. There's so much excitement, so much momentum. If we couldn't, it's not that I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. No one person has all the answers, but we do know this. We have all the power, and I've always known that because to me it's, and I don't know, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else if this wasn't obvious to you. To me it's obvious. And also if you just read, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, especially the Declaration of Independence, and understand those principles, the Bill of Rights, understand those principles, understand what it means to self-govern and be sovereign. Again, sovereign, all these people charging you to get paperwork to write your name and funny hieroglyphs and squiggly lines and colons, and you become a colon master. That was never the answer. And I was, in the back without trying to disrupt the whole crowd, waving the flag like, hey, that's not the answer. And again, I don't have all the answers, but I knew that wasn't the answer. And I just wish
Mhm.
more people would have just taken it instead of being distracted by all of the sparkly lights and the glitter and everything and like, ooh, this is new, it's a big movement, it's great. And then that was fun, it was great, we need that. But the problem is because we had too many Pied Pipers, everybody just sort of started to scatter and disperse. So I feel like now it's kind of a sheepdog thing, like rounding the herd back up again. I'm not calling you guys sheep. I'm just giving it as an analogy. It's like rounding everybody back up and getting everybody, focused again and together in the same place because we can't do this if everybody's not on the same page, if everybody doesn't understand, that it takes concerted effort in unison, united and in unison. It takes strategic effort, and because just sitting around complaining about it doesn't fix anything. It never will. It'll just get worse and worse and worse. It's like
Right.
having a broken leg and you just complain about it and cry about it and never go to the doctor and get it get it set and get a cast
Hey,
on it. It'll never
re-
heal.
real quick, guys, no more questions because Ethan and Lewis Herms are very long-winded. So we've got 5 or 6 here. That's enough to keep us
Okay,
going for
I'll
4 days. So
I'll give quick like 2 3 sentence answers. But that's that I do see us coming out of this because people always react at the last minute. But this is
yeah,
the re rally. This is a re rally, is what this is.
yeah, and let's just talk about reality. Americans are really good at procrastinating.
Yes.
That's just a fact. All right, let me go back up and see if I can
See the
find
first
these.
question.
Yeah, sorry guys, got to go back up and find these. This is annoying. Um, I had them all, but my laptop works a little bit different, I think, than my. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's the first one. Was the Stormy Daniels accusation official business? If you want to talk movies, I think that was all for the movies. The
Yeah.
movie, President Trump flat out said, none of that was admissible in that court case because that was a
Right.
deep state court case for in my opinion, that was for the movie. What's your thought?
It's just it's part of the movie. And again, when
Yeah.
Q says enjoy the movie, it doesn't mean sit back and do nothing. You're an extra in the movie. You're in the movie. We need
Hmm.
to enjoy it, but we also have to do our part. Acting. What does the word acting come from? Action. What does the director say when they start rolling film? Action.
Action. Right.
So you're
Yeah.
an extra in the movie. Take action.
If anybody's ever watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, you're part of the entertainment when you
Yes.
go to the movie theater. So the next one is, what is the constitutional book Ethan uses?
That one I use all the time. That has about it's almost 900 pages. It's a collection of all of our founding documents and tons of Federalist papers written by like the excerpt I read there from James Madison. That's actually in that book. You can pick it up at any of your bookstores, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, things like that. They usually have it. I can't
And
remember what it's
the
called.
title again?
I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a big hardback book, and it's just a collection of select writings of our founding fathers and the Constitution. And
Okay.
I mean, you
What
would
I'll
know
do
it if
is,
you saw it. I don't have it right here with me.
that's all right. So just let me give it to me when you get it, and I'll
Or
post it
wait,
in
do
my
I?
Telegram.
Oh, I left it.
Um,
It's not in here. I did bring it's in my truck.
No worries. Just I'll post it in my Telegram when you get it. We'll put it in there. What should we, the people, be doing to help fight the government, ensure our God-given freedom? Um, okay, so to ensure your God-given freedoms, the first thing you need to claim it emotionally, which many people do not do. They give over their power to governments of all shapes, local, county, and federal government, and even to the NGOs and the corporations. So you need to ensure your God-given freedom yourself immediately. To say, I claim it. No is the most powerful word that you could have in your vocabulary. Now, what should we the people be doing to help fight the government? Right now, I would say get the word out, and the micro does fix the macro. Do something locally to make a difference, to make sure things are run the way you want them, and find like-minded people, which you will, by the way. And you know the easiest way to find like-minded people, guys? Sounds crazy. Wear your favorite Patriot saying on your shirt or hat. Doesn't have to be mine, doesn't have to be Ethan's. We're not here to sell that. Wear your favorite saying on your shirt or hat. You would be amazed at how many people walk up and agree. But then don't just walk away and say, oh, cool, thank you. Strike up a conversation, maybe exchange text messages. And that's how we build a
Yeah.
army.
You
And
literally had to build a network. That I know a lot of people don't want to do it, but not. Here's the thing. It's you get twofold benefit out of it because by building a network for this purpose, you help us get where we need to go collectively faster. But you also build your own social capital something that's overlooked so many times is something called social capital. People think that wealth is just, real
Mhm.
estate or cash or gold and silver or crypto or whatever. They think it's just these money assets, right? But social capital, in my opinion, it's actually helped me go a lot further in life than any other form of wealth. And by the way, wealth is not a condition that you're in, it's a state of mind. And if you have a wealth state of mind, you're supposed to, a prosperity mindset, you will naturally attract wealth to you because you are thinking on a different vibration, a different frequency. You are actually in a Christ consciousness frequency that attracts health, wealth, love, and happiness. And then people will want to be around you. You'll want to be around people. You'll get excited about forming meetups and little clusters locally, even if you just start with 5 or 10 people at your home. I mean, do it sitting around reading the Bible together. I mean, just do that daily. Have you read your Bible today, right? I mean, what days do we want to get together and do that? And you don't even have to understand it all. Just start doing it. But don't start forming crazy religious doctrines out of it. I can tell you that's a mistake from my decades of experience. But do something. Maybe that's not your thing. Do a get together where you read the Federalist Papers and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Just do something. Start forming local clusters of people to get together, because eventually those little local clusters can gel together and one giant mass movement when we're ready to pull the trigger.
Cool. Next question is asking about somebody you were calling out. Guys, we do not on my program or anything I'm associated with, I do not call out truthers. I'm not interested in that. I'm about building the Unity project. That would be counterintuitive for me to do that. So I would request that that type of question doesn't come across here. I understand your concerns about other truthers, but not something I'm going to address
Yeah,
today, I
I
think.
don't name anybody's names. Now I have said that if people don't, certain people don't, and it doesn't matter who they are, and I'm not confirming or denying what's said on the screen, and I won't. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is the truth speaks for itself, and you guys will know. You'll watch it happen. You'll witness it, and if you have enough discernment, and you don't even have to be the smartest person in the room, just use a little common sense. You'll figure it out. All I'm doing is just calling out what should be obvious and what we really need to do. If somebody wants to make assumptions about who I'm calling out, that's on you, not on me. But I will draw a line in the sand at some point if I see that we're in desperate need of
Mhm.
really moving this further, and there's still a lot of people Pied Pipering people off the path.
Yep. As will I. As will I. Okay. Lewis, have you released the tour dates and where can I find them? We're hoping to have those out very, very shortly, right after the holiday. I can tell you that the first one starts September 3rd in Jacksonville, Florida, and after 50 cities ends in at October 5th in Tampa, Florida. Uh, so get your tickets. Joking, it's free. Just show up, have a good time. Um, if security seems to be an issue, which it may be, I will be requesting that identification is shown. If you're not comfortable with that, then just stay home because I understand some people that are in the, how do we say it? The, let's say the sovereign movement do not like showing their identification. I completely understand, but in some cases, we do need to be protected at the same time. Ethan Lewis, do you think by plan could it mean God's plan? My answer is 1 year. One word, sorry. Yes, I do. I do think it's God's plan.
It's always been God's plan. Well, it's like I said, um, if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts foundationally of what Q is the Holy Spirit. In fact, if you Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet, and Q always says it's going to be biblical. Everything's biblical. If you take uh, Holy Spirit and you type that into that's not Israel. They hijacked the name. They hijacked the identity. It's all run by the Rothschilds and the Ashkenazis. That's not the real Israel. The real Israel is a spiritual family. So yeah, Lions back in the pride. Let's get the Lions together. The band's getting back together, and we got to whoop some ass.
Cool. On that note, close it out. It's your show, sir.
Is that all of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Well,
that's
guys,
enough.
thanks for hanging out
God,
with us.
God, and
And
God bless everybody.
I'm going to try, just so you guys know too, because I was going to try to do a 4th of July show. I don't know if I will be able to. I will be in the forest. I will be in the mountains in the forest. I won't probably have a real good internet signal. Sometimes I get good signal there. Sometimes I don't. I don't have control of it. So if I'm able to, I will. But if not, then I'm not doing a 4th of July show. So anyway, anything else, Lewis? That it?
No, that'll do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me and Lewis here on the, I was going to say the Ethan Lucas show, but this is the Ethan Lewis show. Because we're streaming on yours and mine. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will catch y'all on the next one. Be safe. Don't blow any fingers off in the next couple of days. Don't set anything on fire. All right, we'll see you later. Peace out.